Hey guys, I'm Chef D-Max. Welcome back to my kitchen. Today, a broccoli cheddar soup. Probably one of the most famous soups out there, right? Whenever I hear that soup, I have to order it. So you guys got to stay with me. Let's make one here in the kitchen today. Click subscribe if you're not doing that. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video and ring that bell and I'll send you new things I have coming up. So I'll see you back with some soup. Okay guys, we're back. So to do a broccoli cheddar soup, super easy. I just want to show you guys how variations that you can do. I'm going to start with my pot here. I've got about a tablespoon of butter in there. I'm going to let that melt down. While that melts down, I'm going to start my flavor forward, which is my garlic to go with that. So I've got a couple cloves of garlic. You could go more if you like a ton of garlic in your stuff. Obviously garlic and broccoli soup works great together. I'm just gonna smash these a little like this, and I'm just gonna probably just slice them down. We don't have to worry because this whole soup's gonna kind of get pureed anyway. So I just want to kind of put my garlic in there and let it toast with my butter. Now, what I like to do too, because I'm not looking to brown that, sometimes you do make brown butter, I'm going to put a couple tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil in there too, and I want that to come together. Now, I'll put some pepper while I'm doing it. Might as well season it all up here at the same time. This is just our starter kit of seasoning, right? Why would I put the peppercorns in here now too? The peppercorns toast with the garlic, and it really brings out the flavor of the pepper. So if you have, old peppercorns around, it really helps to bring that peppery flavor out. And then I'll put salt in too. Now we're gonna have to salt it at the end as well, but I always like to start it off with a little salt too. Now you see how that butter is simmering here, right? And the garlic is toasting. It's perfect. We'll let that go. Now, we're gonna do some onions and celery. Now, because the soup is green or greenish with the broccoli, I'm not gonna put anything like carrots or anything that adds sweetness or color. So, other than green, right? So, with this, I'm gonna put some celery in there, like this. I've got just 3 ribs of celery for this one kind of big head of broccoli. And that's all you really need. I mean, I put a little for flavor. If you wanted to put less, you could put less. What this also does is I'm gonna make mine meat-free. So I'm not gonna put chicken stock in this. I'm gonna make it with vegetable stock. So if I'm gonna make it with veg stock, I like to use a lot of vegetables in this to give us that vegetable flavor, other than the broccoli itself. The broccoli should shine, so you shouldn't have too much veg where you can't tell, what veg you're actually highlighting. Now, the onions, you don't need to worry about dicing them any certain way. So I just slice down them and then slice back, and I don't worry. You see how they're kind of these little chunks, odd chunks? This is fine because we're gonna blend this all up anyway. So that's the beauty of when you're going to blend something, is you don't have to go to town on making it perfect dice. So it's a little easier in the kitchen. Now you can see my butter is it's slightly turning golden, and I've got my garlic is nice and toasted, right? At this point, I'm going to add in all of these veg here. So I've got my onions, my celery, and what that's going to do is help to slow down the saute process, right? Because there's a little bit of water in these. Water is going to come out, and these flavors are going to marry together. So look how beautiful that looks. I love the flavors of this. This is part of the traditional flavoring of kind of the Holy Trinity in Cajun cooking is the celery, onions, and peppers. They would put peppers in. Now, you don't have to put pepper in. It doesn't have to be a Holy Trinity for this, but I like the idea of that. So I use these cachucho peppers. You see they look like this? They look like a Scotch bonnet, which is a really spicy pepper, but this one has no heat. It's called cachucho. And I actually find them in my major grocery store. They're over where the peppers are in a little container thing. And if you can't find them, you don't have to worry about adding pepper at all. You could add in a little bit of green bell pepper if you like to do that, but you don't have to do that. And I definitely would not put a whole green bell pepper because it's just too powerful. Or find like a really small one. You know how they sell the smaller versions in the store? You could also sub it for like a pepper that's got a little bit of spiciness to it, like an Anaheim pepper or something like that. I just think sometimes having that little bit of green peppery flavor in this type of soup works really well. Now, wow, this one smells beautiful, right? It's very aromatic. So I'm gonna take these cachuchas and put it in there. Like I said, don't need them at all. You could just literally make this whole soup with just onion and broccoli. You don't even need to use the rest of this, okay? But this is a different development in flavor, what makes my broccoli cheddar soup so special and what I like about it. Now, traditional broccoli cheddar soup too, the old school days, they would probably make this with chicken stock and they would make this with a flour. So you'd add a roux in here. You make a little bit of a roux to start. And that way when you add flour and you have the cheese together, it helps to bind a cheddar cheese. Cheddar cheese tends to be oilier. So that oil separates and it helps to keep the cheese together, like in a fondue, right? Now, there's two ways that people do that. Sometimes they make a roux, which is flour, butter, flour, and oil put together, and that'll help to bind the cheese together. Or they'll take the cheese and grate it and toss it with some flour, so it's just coated with flour, and then put the cheese in. I don't like to do that. I'm going to avoid the extra flour on this, so I'm going to use a potato. You could use rice if you didn't want to use that. So I'm going to trim this up. I don't need this much, so I'm actually, a full potato is almost a little too much because this potato is a little bit bigger. It was like a regular size baking Idaho potato. But you could go with a smaller potato. So I would say something like that shape is fine, right? And I'm going to dice it up. And I'm going to put it in here. And we, like I said, we don't have to worry about how we dice it up, how well we dice it up, because it's going to get pureed anyway. We're just kind of dicing it smaller because I want kind of the starch to come out in this. And this is going to give this soup a lot of body without adding the flour to it. Again, you could cook this and add the rice. You could add a little bit of rice to it, not a lot, a couple tablespoons instead of the potato when you had the liquid in. And then when the rice fully cooks, you puree it up. That makes it more of it's a broccoli cheddar bisque than a soup. That's what kind of defines the bisque, of having that rice in there. But I'm adding a little potato for texture. I want this to be a little creamier, right, without me adding a lot of cream. But again, you could do it with no potato at all. You could do this with just onion, garlic, and the broccoli itself. Now the broccoli, I've got some end pieces here. I'm going to show you what I like to do. I like to take a bowl here on one side and my broccoli on the other, right? And I want to trim this broccoli up, right? So I have like these little bits here, right? And then I'm going to just chop these up small like this, right? You see these broccoli hairs almost, right? So I'm going to do that with this one head here. So this will be just like this. You see that? Now, why? Because this head of the broccoli here is very tender, right? And I'm going to add that in at the end of this. So I'm going to chop those in like this. And then I'm going to take this broccoli and I'm just going to use the head piece like this. You see these top pieces here? Okay. Now I want to make sure I'm stirring this good. Now, at this point, if you wanted to add wine, you could. I'm going to leave it without wine myself, but it's ready to go. So now we're just going to add our water. Again, we don't need to add in, here we go. So that's about 2 quarts of water, so a half gallon of water, right? And then we're going to let that come to a boil. Now, you can see my broccoli here, right? We've got some pieces like this that we're just going to chop up, these small pieces like this. And why are we going to do this? We're going to add this in later because we're going to puree this soup. So I like the soup pureed, but I like to have some body of broccoli back in it. Now, if you don't care about that, you could just leave it the way it is. But otherwise, I'm going to have my broccoli pieces like that we're going to add back into the soup later, okay? for some texture, other than the creaminess, right? So with probably, you know, 2/3 of that head, I did my pieces here. Okay, now what that leaves is these other bits and chunks, which are going to go right into the soup. Okay, now let me show you a little secret on this. This top piece like here, I'm just going to chop this rough like this and throw that in here as well. Okay, now also with the bottom of this, I'm going to put it in. Now broccoli is something, we get a lot of beautiful broccoli in the spring. Here I've got these stems. You don't want to throw these stems away. So what you want to do, they are very woody, not woodsy. They're very woody. And I want to kind of trim around the outside of them like this as I roll them around, right? And what that leaves me is the centerpiece of this woody bark is beautiful chunks of very tender broccoli, all meaty, right? Which I dice up like this, and it goes right into my soup. And I do that all 3 pieces. Now, see how that goes? Like this, right around here, like this. Get rid of all the excess woody pieces like this. And this, you know, I've made salads from just the center of the broccoli piece. It's beautiful. A lot of you just trim this and throw it away. And I don't think you realize that the heart of the broccoli is probably the most tender, flavorful part. And that's going to really flavor your broccoli soup and make it wonderful. Now, the broccoli at this point needs to cook, and this needs to cook down. I do not put a lid on it because I do want it to evaporate. It's got salt in there, it's got pepper, it's got the garlic flavor. There's no spice in this. I'm not going to put any spice in this. We're going to cook this down, and after we cook this down, then we're going to add in a little bit of cream and cheese, and we're going to blend this and finish it up. So we'll see you back in a little bit. Okay, guys, we're back. It's been about 25 minutes. I think it takes about between 20 to 30 minutes to get that cooked down feel. Now your broccoli is going to lose some of its color. That's why adding this other back in towards the end is going to give some color to this dish. Now, most of the time when you've had broccoli cheddar soup, it's not vibrantly green, right? Because the broccoli's been cooked down in there, and the broccoli is more of a lime greeny color, or a light color green. If you wanted to make it super green, you could do is right before you puree, you could put parsley in it, but it's not necessary. And the parsley will give it some parsley flavor too. Now with the white cheddar, I've got 4 ounces of white cheddar here. So for one head, I think 4 ounces is probably the right amount of a nice sharp white cheddar. Okay, I'm going to take that. I'm slicing it now. You could grate it if that's easier for you. It's just such a small amount for me. It just seems easier just to chop it up small like this so it melts quickly, right? And when I puree it, it'll all kind of emulsify nicely. I want to taste it. Make sure my cheddar's good, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle that in here of that beautiful cheddar flavor. Now, the sharper the cheddar, the more lovely the soup is going to be. And I'm going to take a little bit of heavy cream, and I just like nice creaminess in this. So if you wanted to do away with the dairy in this, you could leave out the cheese and the cream and the butter. But then, you know, it's going to be a lot different of a broccoli soup, but you could still make it creamy like that if you just have all those vegetables and you add extra virgin olive oil when you puree it. It's going to be fine. Now I've got it like this. You can see it looks beautiful. I'm going to wait till this cheese melts. Now after this cheese melts, we're going to go ahead and puree it. It's not going to take long. See, it's already coming to a boil. So once it comes to a boil, we'll do that. I just want to taste it there and see what the flavor profile is like. I got a lot of great broccoli flavor from that water cooking with the vegetables and that broccoli. Tastes fantastic. At this point, all I'm looking to really do, to be honest, it's got enough salt. That little teaspoon of salt I put in the beginning was fine. It's got nice pepperiness. I might put a little bit more pepper in there because I do like it peppery. But again, you know, a lot of times people like to add excess pepper towards the end. And I'm going to put a little bit more extra virgin olive oil in, another tablespoon there. Now, if you're trying to avoid, well, obviously you're trying to avoid oils and fats and stuff, you're not going to be eating broccoli cheddar soup because the cheese, and the cream, the butter, all that's fatty, right? It's not horrible for you. It's all natural, whole, beautiful whole products. You can buy nice organic milk. You can buy really grass-fed butter. You can make this healthier for you. And there's a lot of people believe now that just eating real foods is the key to good, good health. It's good exercise, it's good balance, and it's really about that blend of both of those. So now my soup looks like it's really coming together. Now, if you look at this soup, look at the texture. It's got like this kind of watery creaminess, right? A light creaminess from everything. You could eat it like that if you wanted to. Everything's cooked in there. You could have it chunky. But I'm going to go ahead and puree it, and I'm going to put it back in here. Now, when you puree it, you got to make sure that you take I always puree it like a lot of times at home, because if I'm making just for a few people, I'll puree it in my NutriBullet. And because the NutriBullet's smaller and like this. Now, if you're doing that, you always have to remember, only fill it halfway full, because you want the steam to be able to have room to expand. And if you back it to the top like this, one, it's not going to puree well, and two, it's going to get overheated and want to explode. So you want to put it on and put it halfway and then blend it. So let me blend this and we'll be right back. Now, I've blended my last bit. I'm going to put that back in here, okay, like this. And I've got my soup now all pureed. Do you see that? See what that looks like? Okay, now all I'm going to do is dump in my my broccoli, my raw broccoli here. And this is the broccoli tops, right? And I'll blend that in as well. See, now what that's going to do is going to give me a small bit of chunkiness, but all the beautiful tops of the broccoli. And then I'm going to go ahead and cook this for another 3 to 4 minutes, just so it gets, so those pieces of broccoli get cooked in here. And after that, we're going to taste it and see how it is. So I'll see you back in about 5 minutes. Okay, guys, we're done now cooking this for another 5 minutes. That broccoli, the small bits of broccoli that I put in there are nicely cooked, okay? And then at this point, what I want to do is I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice to it. Not a lot, I would say like the squeeze of like a half a lemon, right? What that does is it gives, and I do that right before I serve it. So I don't store this soup like that. I do that right before it goes out. It gives a little bit of brightness to it. So at that point, I turn it off, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and pour some of this into like a nice mug and serve this with some beautiful crispy potato chips. Look at that, a little bit of cracked pepper on top, right? Maybe even a drizzle of olive oil. And look how beautiful that looks. Amazing, right? But let's try it. That's the key. It's perfect. Broccoli cheddar is literally one of my favorite soups. I know it is for a lot of people. If you make that list of the top 5 soups out there, I mean, it's got to be lobster bisque, clam chowder. I would say probably French onion soup and broccoli cheddar. They're in the top 4, gotta be. But if you like other soups, you want to see me make them, make sure you make comments in the bottom and let me know that. Otherwise, try this at home with your friends and family. It's really good. Like I said, there's tons of different variations you can do it with. You can put a little flour in it instead if you don't want the potato. You can leave out everything and just do broccoli and onions in the water. You can use it with chicken stock. It's fantastic. This version is amazing. Try it at home and let me know what you think. I'll see you back in my kitchen soon. I'm Chef Dean Max.